Hey, this is Queen at Nuworld Tarot, and I wanted to come on here and bring forward a pretty heavy message today. I know that I've kind of changed up things a little bit on my platform, and some people like it, some people, whatever. But I just want to come on here and share a very interesting conversation that I found online while just scrolling along. A lot of people probably don't know this, but I do a lot of work on my own being and who I am and how I operate and how I deal with people. I'm not the nicest person all the time, but I also know that I need to protect my own energy. So sometimes I can come off a little mean, but that's not my intention. Anyways, so I came here to share this conversation with you guys because I want to give my insight on this, because I know that a lot of black women are waking up and a lot of black women are looking for answers as to how to heal themselves and how to become better people and how to not be abused by, people of the opposite sex, of their same nationality. So I'm here to help aid in this process. So, if you like the content, make sure you thumbs up the video and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit the notification bell, and we are going to get right into this. I hope this is not real loud because I had music playing. Hold on, let me turn it down a little bit. Okay, wait. Forgive the noise in my house. My kids are home from work, so they're active, but here we go.
First of all, I do not believe that compassion is an untrammeled moral virtue. And I think one of the terrible things about our society, one of the deadly Oedipal things about our society, is that we've put compassion in the highest place, unthinkingly. And compassion is for infants. And I really mean that technically. So, like, if imagine that your ethic was that you were 100% compassionate. Okay, so what are you like? Well, you're like a good mother with a child under 6 months of age.
So what Jordan Peterson is explaining here is that compassion is a double-edged sword, which a lot of people, I think, through religious practices, and this is in no way any shots at anybody who practices religion, but what I think he is bringing forward here in this statement, is that people will tend to believe that being compassionate, no matter how they're being treated by someone else, makes them a victor and not a villain. But when you're living in a society where you have to operate and deal with people who are outside of your own social dynamic, so you have to leave your neighborhood and go to work. You have to, deal with your boss. You have to deal with coworkers. You have to deal with people at the grocery store. You have to deal with people at school. You have to deal with people when you go to the park, when you go to the zoo, when you go to the amusement park, when you go to socialize at dinner. You have to be around other people. So being compassionate in every aspect of your life does not make you strong. It actually makes you weak. Okay? Pay attention.
Because human babies are born premature in some fundamental sense. So, the average gestation period for a mammal of about our size should be 2 years. And so our babies are born radically premature. And there's complex reasons for that. One is that there's an arms race, an evolutionary arms race between the circumference of the infant's head and the dimensions of the pelvic hole through which the baby has to pass to be born. And if the pelvis of women was any wider, they couldn't run. And if it was any narrower, then the child would die, like many children did, right? I mean, the human birth mortality rate was abysmal right up till about, certainly 100 years ago. And the babies' heads are compressible, right? The bones aren't fully formed when they're born, and often kids are born and their heads are cone-shaped because they've been subject to such pressure during birth. So it's a narrow needle to thread, and there's been a lot of evolutionary tinkering to get that right. So, our infants are born unbelievably helpless, and they are basically prenatal until they can crawl, and that's 7 or 8 months. And so prior to that, because they're so utterly helpless, everything they do has to be regarded as above moral reproach and 100% right. And so if you have an infant who is crying, who's 6 months old or 4 months old, your job is not to judge the infant or to punish the infant or to discipline the infant. It's like the infant has a problem, and all of your attention is to be focused on solving that problem. Period. 100%, that's it. And that's great for people who are under 6 months. But it's deadly. It's increasingly deadly as the child matures because...
Listen, the catering that a lot of women tend to do to their man. And listen, I know we get a lot of talk of men talking about these traditional women that keep the house and take care of the children and is waiting on her man hand and foot and willing to compromise and just shut her mouth and let him make all the decisions and let him be the thinker of the household and let him do as he will. And she is supposed to just sit and be quiet. This catering is, he's comparing this, doing this with an adult, as the way a mother mothers an infant, which he describes as deadly behavior. If you are a traditional woman, you are behaving deadly to your partner. No man, no woman, no adult should be catered to as if they are an infant. It's a deadly consequence that comes with that.
All-encompassing, I will do everything for you, is also the enemy of development. And that's the whole Freudian nightmare. I mean...
I will do anything you want, which is the mentality that a lot of men are looking for, according to what they're saying, in these traditional women. The consequence to that is deadly. It will backfire. That's why divorce court has a television show. Pay attention.
He put his finger on it. He knew that that was the pathology of the age, the Oedipal mother. And it's like, yeah, well, welcome to the age of the Oedipal mother, everyone, because that's certainly what we see now. And so if you put compassion in the highest place, well, then that's what you have, is you have a state of being where everything is an infant. And the only hallmark of ethic is pity. Now,
so let me ask a question. Are we not hearing women of all nationalities talking about how infantized their men are? Black women are complaining. Asian women are complaining. White women are complaining. Women from all backgrounds are complaining. That's what the feminist movement is about. The men behaving like helpless children, kicking and screaming and fighting because women make as much money as they do, kicking and screaming and fighting because their women aren't submissive, kicking and screaming and fighting because she has a smart mouth, she has a voice, she can dress how she wants. Is that not what infants do? When they have a problem, they kick and scream and yell. Deadly consequences. Pay attention.
Talked about classic conceptions of what is in the highest place. God, he said, well, God rules with two hands, mercy and justice. And that's that discrimination. You know how bad discrimination is. It's like, well, no, it's not. It's differentiation. It's judgment. It's putting things in their proper place. It's setting the highest above the lowest. It's formulating a pathway for further development.
Interesting.
Check this out. I'm going to show you how I afforded this car.
Sorry.
Okay, you ready?
Commercial.
All right, 108.
Further development. You know, a mother might say, you're just fine the way you are. But what's that to say to someone who's, well, 10? It's like, you're not fine the way you are. You're 10. You got a lot of growing up to do, and you're probably not fine the way you are when you're 20. It's like, you're just a fraction of what you could be. And if it's all maternal compassion, and I mean that in the symbolic sense, it's all maternal compassion, it's, well, where's the impetus for development?
And see, this is the problem with a lot of women who who are forced to be single parents, a lot of times they confuse their compassion with them filling in the shoes of the father not being available for their children. What these women are not understanding, which, let's be honest, most of the time it's a black woman, okay? Black women are the biggest single parents. I mean, of course, white women are running up trying to steal that crown. They can have it. But a lot of times, okay, almost all the time, when a mother is overly compassionate to her son, let's say this son has a in and out father or an inactive father, or their father has been toe tagged, or he's in prison, or whatever the case may be, but this man is not around to provide that masculine push that most young men need. A lot of times a mother doesn't know how to turn off her mother. She doesn't understand that what she's doing is going to cause deadly consequences. She doesn't understand that in 20 years, her and her child are going to be feuding with one another because she has infantized him. He doesn't know how to do anything for himself. He doesn't know how to wash his clothes. He doesn't know how to keep the house clean. He doesn't know how to keep dookie stains out his underwear. He don't understand these things that you have been doing for him his entire life. And then he gets older, and the first thing the women say, well, he watched me do it his whole life. Why he ain't just learn how to do it? That's not the way it works. You have to push an individual to be the greatest version of themselves. You don't go around and show complete compassion for someone until they turn 18 and then say, all right, get the hell out of my house, go figure it out. What you're doing has deadly consequences. You are going to infantize a man and turn him into a target. Pay attention.
Judgment there. And I think the most dismal thing you can tell 18-year-old boys in particular, especially if they're miserable, is, well, you're just okay the way you are. And they're not, first of all, and no one thinks they are, including them. Well, they don't. No one gives a damn about malfunctioning 18-year-old boys. Like, you know, but you can say, with the proper admixture of justice and mercy, it's like, yeah, well, you know, you're not so bad for 18, and you could be way more, and good for you, and then you can encourage that, and that's the spirit of justice, and that's a patriarchal spirit, fundamental.
That's a patriarchal spirit, a spirit of justice. You have to start being honest, because let me tell you, I have 3 adult male sons. There's going to be a day that they're going to come to you and they're going to say, why did this man not care? Why was my dad not there? Is there something wrong with me? Why was I rejected? Why was I not good enough? Why? And a lot of women who opt to be single parents, because some of them will literally opt to be a single parent. They'll know that this guy is not going to be there. They know his lifestyle. They know he's not worth them opening their legs to, let alone having a child, but they'll do it anyway. But, I mean, getting pregnant by a Dusty, you pretty much signing up to be a single parent. But the people who are opting to be a single parent don't take that into consideration. Oh, I can raise my baby by myself. I don't need no help from no man. I can do it all by myself. And indeed, you may be able to when it comes to finances and stability. But when it comes to the thought processes of this individual, you can't think like a man because you're not a man. And that's what a lot of women tend to let escape them. Once these children become a certain age, they wonder why they're fighting. And they wonder why their children hate them. And they wonder why they're running around toe tagging their parents. And this is why. You have infantized this individual. You made this individual think that everything that they want, everything that they need, everything that they desire should be at their fingertips. You should be providing it. And then when you finally say, wait a minute, you're 18 years old. The answer is no. You think they're not going to push back? You think they're not going to want to fight you? You think they're not going to want to toe tag you? You think they're not going to hate you? Are you serious? I don't know what reality a lot of you are living in, but I'm trying to get you to wake your ass up. Okay? The truth of the matter is, if you are going to take on the role to be the feminine and masculine energy that all children need in order for them to function properly in the society that we live in. You have to act like a lady and think like a fucking man. You don't have a choice. If Tyrone ain't gonna help you, you don't have a choice. You have to push them to be the best version of themselves. When my sons were young and they would have a disagreement, I would try to sit them down and let them talk. If they didn't want to talk, I would pull their boxing gloves out and I'd be like, duke it out. I wouldn't let them hurt each other, but I would let them fight until somebody tapped out. Because listen, I ain't finna deal with the shit. You ain't finna be running around tearing up my house all week. Get that shit on out your system. My children had jobs by the time they were 8, 9 years old. I would see men outside cutting grass and I would stop. Hey, you need help? I got 3 boys back here. They can pick that shit up off the ground. They know how to use a rake. They know how to sweep. Give them something to do. When we was going to church, they stayed after every Sunday. Go in there and clean them stalls. Go in there and do some charity. Go in there and help that old lady to her car. You have to give men something to live for. They have to feel needed. And if you doing everything for him, doing everything, oh, that's my son. I ain't gonna never let him know. I ain't gonna kick him out. I ain't gonna let he can stay with me for the rest of his life. He ain't never got to do nothing. I ain't gonna let my baby. I'm not gonna let my baby. Deadly consequences. Pay attention.
It's the encouragement and the calling forth of further development. There has to be allowance for imperfection and error. Well, also orientation towards the aim. Yeah, and getting that balance right. Well, that's part of what consciousness does, I would say, is it constantly adjudicates between those two higher order principles. Now, those aren't the only principles, but and there's no final solution to that, right? You can't just say, well, we're all compassionate and we're done with it. It's like, no. And it's an ongoing problem, right? With your kids, you're always wondering, they make a mistake. It's, well, how much do you forgive them? And how much do you say, how about you don't do that again? It's really embarrassing. It's terrible for you. If you replicate that error, your life is going to be a bloody catastrophe. You're old enough to figure it out. It's like, clue in. And you might say, well, who loves the child more? The one who says, oh, it's okay, everything you do is lovely, which it isn't. Or the person who says, you could do better.
Now, let me also explain this. My parenting, when me and my ex-husband split up, I believe that the things that were downloaded to me were spiritual. Because there were a lot of times when I wasn't present, when my ex-husband would take my children to the park, or when they would go play basketball, or they'd be doing whatever. I'd be at home cooking or studying. I was a student and stuff at the time in college. So I'd be at home studying and cooking and cleaning the house, but I had peace. He was a very active father. So I had a lot of peace, right? So I wanted to do those things. Who don't want a clean house? Who don't want, clean clothes? Who don't want those things, right? I wasn't per se the traditional woman because, listen, you ain't finna lead me to hell. That's what you're not gonna do, okay? If you say something out of order, we finna talk about this shit. Okay, and we're going to figure out a medium. We're going to come to some sort of conclusion about what the hell is going on, okay? And honestly, I was the brains of our dynamic, and I know sometimes you have situations where the man is the brains in the relationship. I don't know whose relationship. But in my relationships, I have been the brain, okay? So I was the brainiac of the situation, but I wasn't overbearing. I wasn't pushy, right? So a lot of times after he and I had broken up, a lot of times the things I would do when it came to my boys were things that were downloaded to me from on high. There were certain things I just would not do. It wasn't in me to do it because I wasn't used to doing it because my ex-husband did all those things when it came to the boys. But then there were other things where I just would be like, it doesn't make, like, if I want you to be a man, it doesn't make sense for me to do that, right? So let's say the boys are riding on their bicycle, right? And let's say hubby's somewhere doing whatever. Lord knows what that was. But let's say hubby's somewhere doing whatever, right? And one of the boys falls off his bicycle. Ah, ooh, ah. I would be like, are you dead? No, it hurt. Yes. You bleeding? Yes. Okay. Get up. Life hurt. That's exactly what I would say to them. Sometimes in life, you're going to fall down, baby. And it's going to hurt. And sometimes it'll leave you bleeding. But you got to learn how to get up. You got to learn how to help yourself. And you got to learn how to get on that bicycle and do it again. And I would take them in the house. And I would take them in the bathroom. And I would hand them a cotton swab. And I would put some peroxide on it. And I would make them wipe their own wounds. And I would have them put their own bandages on. Learn how to take care. Learn how to lick your own wounds like an animal. I don't want no weak ass sons. I don't want you running around here calling me for every damn thing. Mama, mama, come get me. Mama, help me. Mama, I'm in jail. Mama, I need a car. You got some money? Mama, I need some food. Can you cook for me? I could get up right now and go walk in the room with my children and be like, hey, I want some steak and eggs. And they can go in there and make a steak that will make you want to hurt some damn body. But what I'm saying is, how do we turn off this nurturing thing that's natural for a woman? It's easy. It's called, I'm going to nurture you, but I'm also going to create a justified situation. If you climb your ass up on my counter in my kitchen and you fall and bust your lip or your head wide open, I ain't finna run in there and hug and pat you on your damn back. Right while you sitting there with blood dripping from your head, I'm gonna be like, no, what the hell made you go in there and do that for? Do it feel good? No. All right. I'm going to take this little piece of cotton. We finna go and take you to the hospital. Make sure you ain't finna die. Okay? But I ain't rushing. Now, if you're unconscious, that's different. But you know what I'm saying? If you conscious and you can talk to me, child, please. Ain't nobody tell you to climb your ass up on that counter. Ain't nobody tell you to go in there and touch that hot ass stove. You felt the heat before you touched it. Oops, you got burnt. Figure that shit out. Okay? If you want men with manly behavior, you have to create them if their fathers are not willing to do it. And this is what I'm saying to women. We have to start creating this manly aspect that we're looking for. Because I hear so many women on YouTube and on social media and on all of these platforms, and they'll be like, oh, my son is weak. Oh, he ain't shit. You know, young girls, boyfriends be in their 20s. Oh, he weak. Well, who's creating this weak individual? If you don't have a choice but to be the only person in this man's life, right? That means you opted to do a job that you aren't capable of doing, right? So yes, the father is to blame for this man not knowing how to be a man. But if you took on the responsibility to do that, then regardless to whether this guy decides to step up to the plate and be a father to his child, if you're going to care for the child and the child is going to live in your home, I'm sorry, but there's some rules that comes with this. If you're raising boys, you're going to have to learn how to turn off that motherly coddling. Okay? Because this is creating a weak dynamic within our community. And if we want to see this stop, and we know that 90% of the time the men are not going to be there to teach our sons to be men, then it's something that we're just going to have to embrace, like it or not. Pay attention.
You know, the answer is, well, it's a discussion between those two viewpoints constantly, because and in your relationship with yourself, it's like, how much do you forgive yourself? And the answer certainly is zero. It's not zero. That's, no one can live without being able to forgive themselves to some degree. But by the same token, you know, you don't want to let yourself off the hook for every idiot error you make. Let's say there's something going on at your workplace, and you need to object to it because it's driving you crazy. And you talk it over with your wife so that you've got your head screwed on straight. You say, oh, I've got to say something. And you go there and you say something, and you know, you're stumbling and awkward and all of that. But you watch the response, And maybe you get what you're aiming at, maybe you don't. But you've learned a bunch. You've learned, well, I'm not as coherent as I could be. I'm not as good at putting my arguments together. My boss is more of a son of a bitch than he thought he was. This is a worse problem than I knew about. It's like differentiated. So now the landscape is higher resolution. And so are you. Well, so good. So maybe you're a little bit better prepared the next time you have to do that. And so the issue here, to some degree, is don't lose an opportunity to grapple with something that objects to you, especially when the objection is rather small. Because that's something you say, well, I can put up with it. It's like, fair enough, like you don't want to make everything into a war. I usually use a rule of 3. If we're interacting and you do something that I find disruptive, I'll note it. It's like, potential dragon, gone. And I leave it be. And then if you do it again, I think, oh yeah, that probably wasn't merely situation, but I'll leave it be because that's still not enough evidence. But if you do it a third time, then I'll say, hey, I just noticed this. And you'll say, no, that didn't happen. And I'll say, yeah, not only did it happen, but it happened here and it happened here. And I didn't happen. And I'll say, yeah, not only did it happen, but it happened here and it happened here. And I'm not making this up. So there's something going on here. Like, I'm not ignoring it, and we can get to the bottom of it. And then they'll come up with a bunch of objections about why that isn't necessary, and you push those aside, and they'll come up with a few more objections, and they'll push those aside, and then usually they'll get mad or burst into tears, and if you push that aside, then you get to have a conversation.
And see, what he's explaining is the process of human behavior. When someone is pushing back on you, let's say your husband, for instance, right? Or your wife, your partner, your significant other. Let's say you've noticed some sort of issue in your relationship, okay? Let's say your partner has stepped out in your relationship, right? And let's say you keep seeing these red flags and you're saying, okay, you know, this first time you smelled like a little perfume. All right. You said you hugged somebody at work. All right, cool. Then, you know, you come in and you got a little lipstick on your collar. Oh, yeah, she hugged you and rubbed up against you. All right, cool. And then you come home and then your pants are unzipped and down there smells like perfume as well. It's like, okay, we got a problem here, Houston. You know what I mean? And the person naturally is going to push back on whatever it is that you're saying because they want to continue to do what they're doing. People fight change. They fight change. You can look at my content. You can look at other content creators' content. You can see that people do not like change. They like to be comfortable with what makes them feel good. That's why Christianity is so huge, because pastors know how to get up in a pulpit and make you feel great about yourself. They know how to get up and tell you you're great and you're perfect and nothing's wrong and you don't need to change. God sees you as perfect and God will accept you come as you are and all these other things. They're not going to push change. People normally who push change are people who are not very well received or liked. People don't like change, especially children. So what he's explaining is when a child is young, it's good for you to go ahead and start addressing little things that they need to change about themselves before they become this great problem, before they become a teenager, before they become an adult, before you can't take control of the situation. It's best to address these small things when they're young. Say, hey, you know, you tattle too much. Hey, stop being dishonest. I've seen you do that. I've seen you do that. I know that you're doing that. You need to change that about yourself. No, you're not perfect. You're going to continue to change, but you can become a better person. Here's some suggestions on how you do that. Excuse me. When my children got to the age where everything and everybody around them was trouble, I kept them busy. Everybody need to get a job. Everybody need to be doing something. Let's go. You get out of school, you go to work. You go to work, you get out there, you clean the yard. You clean the yard, you clean the house. You got some, always. It was always something to do. I never gave them too much time to sit back and do nothing because it causes an energy that's deadly. And I didn't want that energy hovering around my home and causing me mental distress. I wanted them to stay busy. I keep you goal oriented. You complete that goal, let me give you another goal. You complete that goal, I'm going to give you 2 more goals. Goal oriented, always focused, always striving towards something. And it wasn't humongous things when they were younger. It might be something little. I need you to sweep the floor. I need you to mop the floor. I need you to take out the trash. And I wouldn't overwhelm them and be like, hey, do this. It'd be like, okay, did you take the trash out? You did. All right, did you make sure the lid to the trash can was clean? You did. Okay, did you go in there and spray down the floor? You did. Okay, did you go in there and mop? You did. Okay, now I need you to go do this. You did. By the time I'm done with you, baby, it's time to go to bed. Okay? You ain't got no time to be sitting back letting no devil do nothing to your brain. Listen. I'm living in your head rent free. You better know this. You get ready to do something stupid, you're going to hear my voice and you're going to see my face. Because I'm going to be all up in your shit. All right? So if you want this dynamic to change and you want to see your men become less and less infantized, because we know this is not going to happen overnight. Okay? This is some generational shit we dealing with here. We're going to have to start changing the way that we parent and mother these children, because the men are not doing it. So just saying that, oh, a mother isn't capable of raising a man is not enough. It's not enough. It's not enough to say, oh, it's Tyrone's fault because Tyrone not here, and then just sit back and let the cards fall as they may. That's not enough. When my boys were younger, I went and found people, white boys, country ass, spit tobacco on the ground white boys. Yeah, we're going camping. We're going to go out. We're going to hunt some gators. I said, can my boys go? Can they go? And they went. And they taught them fishing. And they taught them to lay down in the ground with bugs crawling on them, with gators crawling all around. Because I didn't want them to be no bitches. And the white men were happy to do it. Ecstatic. Loved my boys. Pay attention.
Right, and then you can solve the problem. But man, you got to be a monster, because first of all, you need 6 arguments about why their objections aren't going to stop you. And then you have to not be intimidated by the anger, and you have to not be swamped by compassion about the tears. And then you can have a conversation. And people don't do that. They won't do that. And so they don't solve the problems. And so then the problems accrue, right? And if they accrue over 15 years of a relationship, they end up fat, ugly, and in divorce court. So, and that's not a great outcome.
Now, let me make this clear, okay? I was very, 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 very unacceptable to my children growing up. I know this. But that let me know that I was doing my job. I don't want to be likable to you all the time. I don't want you smiling in my face all the time. I want you to be like, let me get the hell away from this crazy ass lady, get out her face, because I don't like her. That to me, maybe it's the Aries, I don't know. But that to me lets me know that I'm doing my job. When you do everything I told you to do and then you run and try to hide from my ass because you know as soon as I see you, I'm going to come up with 10 more things for you to do, that let me know I'm doing my job. Okay? And my boys, when I tell you I was on them, my oldest son didn't get a cell phone until he was 16 years old. I didn't give a damn about what his friend. He come, mama, all my friends got phones. You treat me like a kid. I still be like, okay, well, you got some money? Because if you ain't got no damn money, you ain't getting no damn phone. You go bring me some money to pay a phone bill every month, and then I'll go get you a phone. And he couldn't do that. So he had to wait until I provided it. And I made sure he earned it. And one of the biggest reasons he got a cell phone at 16 is because they started to venture away from home more. And I started to work more. And I wanted to check on them and make sure that they were okay. But I didn't give a damn about oh, mama, the new iPhone. You got some iMoney? I'm just saying. Look, this shit ain't free. That food in there ain't free. If I go in that kitchen and I cook, you think you finna sit here and eat my damn food and you ain't finna clean this damn kitchen up? You done lost your damn mind. You done lost your damn mind. You done lost it. That's what you done did. That's the fuck you done did. And if you think I'm playing, you wait. You go ahead and leave my kitchen jacked up if you want to. I don't give a fuck if I came in here and tore it up. Leave it like that if you want to and watch and see what's going to happen. I dare you. I double dog dare you. Pay attention.
So you want to know where to invest $1,000 right now? Well, forget about stocks, real estate, or cryptocurrency.
I still ain't did that.
There is a little
no
That's not a great
commercial
outcome. If there's something you want, you need about 5 arguments about why you want it. Because the probability that the person who's opposing you will have 5 arguments about why you shouldn't have it is very low. They just won't have thought it through enough. So the other thing that happens in the future authoring exercise is that you're asked to articulate the reasons for all the goals that come out of your vision of the future. So you're asked, like, why would it be good for you? Why would it be good for your family? Why would it be good for broader society? So that gives you 3 levels of argumentation right there. And if you have it articulated down into detail and it's related to other important goals, then you're a hell of a thing to argue with, because people just aren't that deep, by which I mean they just don't have that many levels of explanation or objection. And it's also really useful in relationship to your own mind, because if you want to do something that's difficult and that requires energy, a lot of different subsystems in your mind are going to throw up objections. It's like, well, maybe that isn't what you should be doing right now. Maybe you should be doing the dishes or vacuuming or watching TV or looking at YouTube. Or if you're really sneaky, when you're trying to do something hard, what your brain does is give you something else hard to do that's not quite as hard, so that you can feel justified in not doing the thing you're supposed to because you're doing something else useful. And if you give in to that temptation, which you often will, then it wins, and because it wins, it gets a little dopamine kick and it grows stronger. Anything you let win, the internal argument, grows. And anything you let be defeated shrinks, because it's punished. It doesn't get to have its way. So that's another thing really to remember. Don't practice what you do not want to become.
Don't practice what you do not want to become. That's the most important part about every statement that he made. If you want to become a failure, then practice that. Why has the Black community been failing for so long? Is it oppression? Is it because we've been put in the hood? Is it because of the welfare system? Is it because of drugs? Is it because of guns? Is it because of all of these things that is being blamed on it? Or is it because Black people have been practicing failure for so long that they have finally perfected it? That's a question that we all should be asking ourselves. Because from my understanding, practice makes perfect. So whatever you practice doing, you become perfect at it. And from what I can see, it looks to me like the Black community is a perfect failure on both ends. I'm disgusted by the men. I'm disgusted by the women. Equally disgusted. The only way that is possible is if someone, somewhere, somehow, has been practicing failing. It's the only way. The only way you can fuck something up as worse as the Black community is you got to practice. This shit had to take at least 400 years practicing failing for things to look the way that they look. So are we going to continue to practice failing? Because we see what that's getting us. Practicing failing is getting us changes, but not the ones we need. Not ones that are beneficial. Not ones that make for a better community. Not ones that are getting our children fathers. Not ones that are getting us out of poverty. Not ones that are giving us any power. So when are we going to try something different? Or are we going to continue to practice failing? It's all up to you. Charity starts at home. So if ain't nobody going to help you take care of your son, you better learn the steps that you need to take to be as successful as possible on your own. My children are not perfect, but they are not coddled. They are not weak. they know that if they want something, they better get their ass up and go get it. That's what they know, and that's what I know. And ain't nobody finna cop no attitude when I tell you about yourself, because I've been telling you about yourself your whole damn life. Ever since you was able to comprehend what the fuck I've been saying, I've been telling you to fix your attitude. And to watch your energy. And don't bring no demons up in my house. And if you prefer the demons, you and them can get the fuck out. I done told that to a 6-year-old. Don't act like you know more than me. This is my shit. If you know more than me, you need to go. Yes, I've told that to a 6-year-old. 6-year-old act like they knew more than my ass did. You bad? Bye. And I'll tell it to a 24-year-old, a 22-year-old, and a 20-year-old right now today. So what you gonna do? You gonna keep practicing failing? Or no? I'm just saying.